Hello everyone. So we were discussing the functions and expression in our last video. So we're going to continue in this video with the enhancement on the functionality. So let me share my screen. So we have discussed and we have seen how we write the expression in SQL, and the way we have written, we try the plus sign to concatenate the string values together and then give it a proper name to format the output. What we're going to do now, we're going to actually move on and we will see if we can do the similar thing with the functions which are available in SQL Server. And like I mentioned last time, we have multiple type of function. We have math function, we have string function, we have date and time function, and we have conversion functions available. And obviously, if you want to apply some condition which is within the SQL statement, we have a very good statement called case. We can use that. And last but not the least, we have the administrative functions as well. So let's come back to the demo environment and we'll see if we can apply some of the built-in function to see how they works. I believe you can see my screen. So you can see the last statement we have actually have written is still there. Now I'm going to use, so instead of plus sign, have a look what I'm going to do. I'm just going to, I'm going to copy that statement. And instead of using plus sign, now I'm going to use our first function, which is string. So I'm going to use concatenate. It take all the values, obviously separated by commas instead of plus sign, and it does the similar job, like it concatenate the values and provide you exactly the output that we have seen previously, and we are concatenating up to here. So that's our close value. So you can see concat function. It's very simple. Like you just need to put the function within the column name, and then you just need to provide the parameters or the values to the function. Function will do the whole thing and then return you the result. So remember that thing, that most of the time, the learning curve for us with this SQL is to understand and use these functions which are already built for you, so you can utilize them for your work or for your problems, right? If you want to ask that how many functions you need to learn, you just need to learn the way how you can use them, what are the places they can be used, and then over the time when the problem comes in front of you, the requirements have been thrown by the business, and you write the queries or scripts that will enhance your expertise to write these functions, right? Generically, if 50 to 60 functions, that's more than enough, because we don't use a lot of a variety. It really depends from work to work or job to job, that what kind of functions you are going to use. So I think let's test the output. Let me first run the first output just to remind you. Yeah, we can see full name is pretty clean instead of these ugly null value. And like I mentioned, with the built-in concat function, we should get the similar value. Awesome. So we are getting similar value as of above. So that's the built-in string function. We have plenty of function. The easiest way you can actually go and you can search and look at the Microsoft side, and you're gonna actually, I'm gonna paste this link in the description, so you can actually use it from there. You can see we have in the online documentation we have T-SQL reference, and under T-SQL reference we have this function. And the beauty is this function has been categorized by the type. Like you can see, there are lots and lots of categories of the function, and you just need to, find the one which is relevant to you. So on your left hand side in that tree value, you can see that we have the aggregate function, we have collation function, we have conversion functions, we have the data types. And let me see if I can. Okay, sorry, it's here now, not in here, because it has a couple of additional topics as well. No, I think it looks like we are in the same node. Yeah, we are in the same node. So we are pretty good here. No, I think we are good. The only thing, I think Microsoft changed the name for more descriptive so people can understand. For example, if I just click on mathematical, so I'm going to see all the mathematical functions. Like we can see absolute function, which take out the negative value. We can see the cosine inverse function, we can see cosine, we can see expression function, these and log function. These really these are very helpful if you are implementing any ML algorithm within your SQL environment. Sometimes we have the data sitting in our database, and instead of exporting it and then calling the Python library, if the model algorithm is pretty simple and we have already implemented within our SQL environment, we can literally implement that within the SQL. And what we're going to do, we're going to actually try to implement the logistic regression as well as the k-nearest neighbor within SQL Server. So over there, the math library is really going to help us. So you can see we have square function, square root function, so rand function as well, which provide us the random value. So by saying it, so you can see this page, I'm just going to actually put it in description. Coming back just to show you. For some function, if you want to use them, you don't need to actually write a full statement. So what you can just use select. And for example, I just want to try absolute function, and I want to provide it one minus 1900 value, and it will give you 1900. Similar way, if I just provide it, you can see it hasn't changed it, because absolute always provide us the positive value. I can try sqrt of, let's say, 625. I do believe it's going to be 25. It provides us the square root, right? We can combine them as well in single statement. Here. Then we can provide, let's say, 65, right? The similar thing, you can actually do it by writing your own command as well. If the function is simple, you're gonna see you can do the same thing by yourself. Later on, we're gonna see that how we can write some advanced function by ourselves. SQL Server provide you the capabilities. So, for example, I do believe we have the power function, right? We have the power function. And you can see it shows you the syntax as a tooltip. So that will really give you the idea. Okay, first you need to provide the expression, and then you need to provide the power. So for example, let me just put the 9, and let me provide the power as 3. And now let me run it. You can see 9 9s are 18, and 18 9s are 729. So that's how we use it. But if for somehow you find some capabilities that you are unable to find within the built-in function, you can build those functions by yourself. And we're gonna see later on, once we look at the programming side of the SQL Server in this course, we will find out how we can build these functions by ourselves. So that's how. Let me just write it down. Here we go. We can use it, but I think we don't have the data at the moment that we can use. But obviously later on, once we go a bit advanced, we will see how we can utilize these math functions. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, and you know what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually put that script file as well. So you can, if you want, if you are following along, you can use it by yourself. So that is the string function. Just try a couple of additional string function as well for you, because we have string data. So for example, I just want to, show my first name and last name as an uppercase, which is a very common requirement sometime. And you have seen that, especially once we are presenting the data into our reports, we have particular format requirements from the business. They provide us that, okay, we want to see the data into this shape. So over there, these functions really help us in our queries. Once we write those queries, we actually add those functions into our select statements, and that will convert the output into desired format. So now if I just go and run this query, I just use upper. So you can see always the full name is still in the upper and lower case, and I think it's called camel case, where every letter is every first letter is in caps of a word, and then the rest are small. So you can see, but however, and let me just give it a so you guys can see at the moment. Just so I think now we can see we have all these values of the name parts. They are coming in uppercase, but we still have one challenge that wherever the name is not present, it is giving us the null value, which is obviously not a good output. If there is a null, we just want to replace it with empty value. But if it is not null, we want to change it to the upper letter. So now you can see how the things are going complicated. That means I need to apply on my middle name two functions. So one function is not doing the job. So for somehow I need to enhance the output to add a bit more complexity. So that's where the nesting comes into the picture. So now what we are going to do, we are going to discuss nested function. Where one function or an other function. Right? So how are we going to do it? How do we start? We normally start with the most internal operation. So we know that we first need to check null, and if the value is null, so now look at the logic how we are constructing. We have a problem where if the value is null, then the function is unable to change it to the upper letter. So that means we first need to deal with the null value, right? And then we need to come back and apply the upper function on the value, right? So learn that pattern, and that will really help you to build any kind of logic to address any kind of problem. So if that's the case, that means I first need to handle the null value, right? So I'm just going to replace my right, and let me replace my middle value where it is null with empty value. And always do work in step, try to dissect your problem and then solve step by step, and at the end, once you're gonna see once you resolve or solve all these steps, that will be your final solution. So I'm not thinking about how I'm going to actually do the uppercase as well as handling the null value right now during my analysis. And that's why, we have a term used in the development world, that you have to analyze the world. It's not like you look at the problem and you start, working on the solution. That's not a good approach. What you're gonna do, you're gonna analyze the problem. Basically, during the analysis, you are dividing the problem into chunks, so you can solve those chunks. And once you solve those chunks and then you link these chunks together, that will be your final solution. So the example is in front of you. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to just solve is the null problem, that I have a null instance in my data. You can see in here. For me, I first need to take these nulls out and replace them with the empty string. So you can see now that has been solved. Now, as soon as I resolve this one, my next step is going to be, okay, so that's where I have applied. Now I'm going to apply my second transformation, which is obviously uppercase, because now my output is in the right shape. Now I can apply on my output, on my middle name, the upper function, which will help me to sorry, I think they are already. So just for the case of discussion, let's do the lower function, that our middle name is going to be lower, because otherwise we are not going to see any difference in the output. I just want to show you the difference, right? So now let's run it. Oops, I'm missing the closing bracket. So all good. Now you can see, now my output is all good, where I can see wherever the middle name is present, it converts it into the lowercase, and wherever it is empty, that will remain empty, which is exactly what we know. We don't want some ugly null value. And you can see this data looks pretty clean and usable compared to this data where we have so many null values. And imagine once that null values goes on the dashboards or reports, they won't provide some really good impression to the business about your data set. So that's how we actually use the string values into our data sets, or in the selection of these data sets. Now the next one is we are going to discuss date functions and how you can. Data functions are one of the most powerful function and most used function in our select statement, because obviously we have a lot of criteria required where we need to filter on date, and especially once we build the data pipeline where we need to filter the data. So most of the time, it's not like every time we are taking the full data set, we take the chunk of the data which we call incremental load. So we see within a one particular window that, okay, how much data has been generated or modified or removed from one source, so we can sync the data, or load that on the increment on the other data source, right? So which is more close to the data warehousing. Once we come towards the data warehousing topics, we're going to actually see in action. But today what we're going to do, we're just going to see how we can use the date and time function. So like I mentioned, we don't need a table. We can just write the select the date function into a simple select statement. One of the best is, sometime you need to generate a particular date value for during your comparison, because we haven't discussed where we can use these functions, which we're going to actually discuss a bit later, but that will really help you. So those expression with the function you generate in the simple select statement without adding any table, and you see the value. Once the output is correct, you're gonna use it within your query. I'm gonna actually show you in the example shortly. Let me just go and check the full table. So what I can do, okay, we have the modified date, which is good. Yeah, I can apply all this sort of thing. So the very first, which is the built-in date function, is get date. Get date is always give you the current date of the system. So most of the time where we don't want to provide any parameters to my function and procedure, and I want to use the built-in function, I use the get date within the SQL environment, because it always return the current date and time. So by saying it, so you can see you have a full date and time, 28th of August, 28th of June 2022, and 11 o'clock in the morning. And then if I just want to, take the date part of it, so I'm gonna do, I can cast it, but I don't want to actually. Let's leave the cast and conversion at the end. Okay, I just want to, if I want to apply any operation, or if we want to compare it with another date. So there are multiple functions available for that purposes. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to now add some value. So I want to add or subtract, I want to go a little bit in future or coming back into the past, just to see the value if we have that sort of requirement. So you can see that we first need to provide the interval. So let's say I just need to see last year on the same day. I want to go 1 year back, and obviously my expression is going to be get date, because it will automatically, and let me give it a name, last year. We also copy it and call it next year. So past and future, and all I need to do, just change that name. So now you're gonna see we have three values. One is pointing to this year. Okay, -1 date add, yeah, 32. Let me see. I think next year. Let's do. Let's see. Yeah, now that's working. But somehow for Y, it is just using that to add or plus -1 day. That's funny. You can use there are multiple flags that you can use. If for somehow it is not working on your system, like you have said, use a proper full name, because that's how you're gonna. So we have the date parts available, and how I know about them. If you can go in the online documentation, obviously we have the date and time function, right? And I can see date add. So these are the date parts. So you can see, oh, okay. Sorry, I think that was my fault. I have to provide two Ys. Yeah. So these are the date part that you can provide. So if you want to, for example, if you want to look at last month or next month, you just need to replace it with mm. I think let's do that as well. So instead of looking into last year and next year, and these really help us to know once we are generating the trend analysis, and once we are generating the comparison of the data from last year to next year, that will really help. Last year is more like, it's more like a trend, okay, where we are now, and based on that we are actually predicting that, okay, where we gonna where we gonna stand in next year. And in order to collect that data and gather them and merge them, that's where we these functions really help to for the filtration. So I'm just going to use m. Yeah. And let me just replace it just for the sake of, yeah, I can see we have two y's. And you can see IntelliSense really help you about the syntax, so you don't need to worry. So let's, by the way, if you want to run more than one select statement, you just need to select the commands and press F5, and you will see multiple outputs on your screen. So you can see we have now in the above output, we have 2022, last year 2021, and next year 2023. Sorry, I need to change it to last month instead of year. Sorry, current month. And next month. So you can see we are in June. So last month was May. You can see 05, and the next month will be July. So that's how you actually use the date function in your query. Obviously, once we have more and more scenarios, we're gonna use this function. Right now, that's just giving you a base. So how these function has been built and has been used. Once you're familiar with these function, and once we go into a real problem where we build the solution, we're gonna see how these functions come into the picture. During our analysis, once we start building the queries, we identify, okay, these are the functions required, and we just put these function into our scripts, and that will do the job, right? So there's a typical dev principle, where if anything has been available and built, you can use that to do the action. But if it is not there, you still have a capabilities to build it by yourself. And then we have the cast and convert function. Both do the same job. It will actually convert the data type of the value. So for example, that's why actually I've run it before. So let me just go and look at the person information, person. Yeah. Let me just show it to you. So I know the name style. Let me see if I can go and look at the. Okay, I have a custom type. I'm not going to discuss that because that requires some additional knowledge. Let me just take a simple scenario. Which one I can do? Yeah, let's use the modified date. In our modified date, what I'm going to do, right now our modified date is coming as a date type, but for somehow I just want to convert it into the string. So for example, if I just want to export it into a CSV file, where these data types are more like treating as a textual values separated by commas, or the other way around, that we are getting the CSV value and we are going to load it in SQL table. But before that, we want to convert the date type. So in order to do it, we use the casting or conversion function. We change the data type from one type to another type. So I'm going to do So I'll just keep all the values as it is, and I'm going to add a new temporary column on the fly, where I'm just adding I prefer to use cost function because that's simple compared to conversion, because conversion you need to define more and more formatting options. So if you are very specific, if your requirements from the business are very particular with how it should be formatted, then obviously we need to look at the conversion function. But normally in day-to-day scripting, if we want to just transform the data type from one category to another, and it's not like very fancy about the output, then we preferably use the cost function. So in that case, because we are just changing the data type of modified from date to text, I'm just going to modify date or and I'm just going to use 20. I'm just saying text by date. Just need to let me show it to you. You can see we have now text modified as a new column, and you can see when the change during the conversion, it changed the date format as well, right? So that's how we use the conversion function. So now we know email promotion is a value, is an integer value. We can even change that to 1, and I'll show you how it will impact, because we just want to understand. So cost promotion, let's use 5, right? And let me show it to you, and let me just add it. For example, 0, right? As we output, yeah. And I'm going to call email promotion description, which is very common, by the way, once you get the practical, because these codes are not very useful for the business. So sometimes once we are reporting the information, we need to convert them, and we need to give them a proper value. Right now we are not actually checking the value, we are just giving it a generic name, but we're going to see very soon that how we can provide a proper value case by case, or based on the condition. Let me run it. So now you can see we have 0 promotion type, 1 promotion type. However, I just want to show you the difference. If without casting, or if without changing the type, if I just email promotion, and if I just multiply it by, let's say, 2, just for the sake of understanding, you're going to see a very different outcome. I'm using I think I should use the same operator. So I'm still using the same operator. Have a look. You're gonna see the difference when the same operator apply on numeric type and the string type. What will be the difference? Once we change the type from integer to text or varchar, and we add the another string, it concatenate. However, once we use the integer type and we add another value, it is applying the addition operation. So you can see we add in 0 an additional value, a static value 2, and the outcome is 2. And then we can see every value has been increased by 2. So that's the whole concept of using the casting and conversion function. And now we are going towards one of the most powerful and one of the most useful statement which has been used a lot into our selection. And especially from the practical perspective, once you're gonna see the actual data assets, or once you see the real business logic that have been built in these data assets, that's gonna consist of lot of these statements, and that is case statement. Now, what that case statement does, it will help you to implement logic. Right now, whatever we are doing it is implementing the whole column values without any exception. So what about if we want to, if we want to apply some sort of condition based on the value of the column? So that's where the conditioning comes into the picture. So now you are not only applying the transformation, you are linking it with the condition that will first validate the condition. If the condition has been matched, then it apply the function on the value. By saying it, now let's do it. What we are going to do now, we are going to use our let me just grab my first query. I think that's the better one here. I'm just going to use it. All right, but now this time what I'm going to use, I'm going to use my email promotion, because let me first show you the output of my table. Now the requirement is what business is asking. So these are the requirements you normally get once you are on board with these jobs. They are asking you, oh, these are not the right value that we want to see. We want to see if the value is 0, then it should display no email promotion selected. If it has selected 1, then that means that only email promotion. If it is 2, that means email promotions as well as updates. These are the values that business normally give us as a business logic. So that's what we call business rules and business logic, and we need to implement into our technical script, so we can, based on these rules, we can generate the outcome for the business. So he said, okay, that should be all right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use case statement. Now, in case, you have multiple parts. So case, that will first show the query engine that, okay, we are now going to define the condition. And then we have, actually, I leave it even at the end. And that's the simplest one, right? So case, when actually define the condition or the expression that has been used to evaluate whether the condition is going to be true or false, and based on that, it's gonna decide whether it's gonna change or apply the transformation or do the work, or it's just gonna skip it. So for example, in this case, we are going to say email promotion is equal to 1, sorry, is equal to 0, then no promotion. Right? For example, that's the text business has given to us. If no value is there, not applicable. Let's say in our where the things are not available, we're just going to put that not applicable. Now, if I run it, so let's run with one rule first. So what we have done, let me first explain again. We put the case statement. After case statement as a syntax, we have the when clause. When clause actually lets you define the condition, and these condition can be as complicated as you can, and you can apply all sort of logic that you want to evaluate before you need to apply the transformation. One thing I would say, there is a call that case hell, where if you have so much logic defined through the case statement, the script becomes really unmanageable, or it's really impossible for people to manage, to get the value out of it, right? So make sure you should keep the balance. If there is an other way, and we're going to see how we can define or split this logic into other way. And then if we the way I mentioned, divide and conquer, if you can divide that logic into different parts where you think, okay, yeah, I can make that logic in some other place, and then call it from there, instead of just putting case by case statement. And imagine, let me put this way, for example, if you have 100 of rules, you think you're going to define the 100 cases in your statement, just think about it. And then we will later on, once we go towards the advanced topics, we will see whether is it really relevant, or is in the case statement. So 4, 5, 10 cases we can understand that, okay, yeah, we can define. But imagine if you have 100 cases, so that means if you are defining 100 cases in your SQL statement, that's not going to be a very good statement, right? So think logically, or think smartly, that where we can use case statement, or where we can define logic somewhere else, so where we can read the logic and then apply that logic to filter the value. All right, so what we're going to do, so email promotion is 0. That's so after when clause, we are providing the condition. And then is a very common word whenever we evaluate any condition, and whatever the result, if it is true, then we do that. So in that case, we just want to display the value. And because it's going to be, sorry, I didn't actually, because it's going to be descriptive information, so we are just calling it email promotion description. And just from the completeness perspective, yeah, I can call that as well, email. Yeah, all good. So I think our very simple select statement has been with the our simple select statement with case clause has been built. Let's run it. So now you can see, wherever we have 0, no promotion selected. Wherever we have any value other than 0, it is selecting not applicable. So how it is, the output is matching with the logic. Our case statement, it check the value of email promotion. If it is equal to 0, it is putting a value no promotion selected into a runtime column that we have created, which is showing us that, okay, the client or the person hasn't selected that option, that he should get the email promotions through email. Otherwise, if the value is not 0, is saying that the rest of the logic is saying, because if that case is not going to be executed, then automatically else will be executed. Because in the case statement, if not any case has been executed due to the false condition, then what happened, the last case execute automatically, and last case will always be else case. Now let me just refine it a bit further. I'm just going to copy above. And what I'm going to say this time, if it is selected, so I'm going to say email promotions selected. So now you can see I'm slowly complicating my condition, and I'm just putting additional business logic. Now keep in mind, most of the time we discuss what is business logic, what are the business rule. These are called business rule because that will define our work, that okay, these are the requirements coming from the business into day-to-day operation, and based on these requirement we build our scripts. Now let me run it again. You can see now. Yeah. So for 0, no promotion selected. For 1, email promotion selected. And then wherever we have the value of 2, that is not applicable, right? So multiple values. And you have seen normally in the drop down, we have these sort of things that we normally select. Yeah, email, no promotion. I don't want the email from this company. Yeah, I want to like updates or email from this company, and not applicable. So that's a pretty good logic that we have built through case statement. So that's how we use the case statement into our select statement. Like I mentioned before, select is a very powerful case is a very powerful statement, and you have to use it with a lot of care, and always think twice. If you have so many business rule and you start embedding those rules in your select statement, it will impact on your select query once it run by the query engine, because obviously your query is going to be evaluated by query engine, and it's going to build an execution plan. So if it has lot of case statement, that means the plan is going to be very complicated, and if the data is large, that's going to impact on the query performance. And last but not the least, like I mentioned, what you're going to do, and that's the question I'm posing back to you, what you're going to do that if you have more than 100 business rule, and if you define those rules through case statement, and then later on another 50 cases come in, is it going to be added in the same select statement, or is it a good way of building the SQL script? Just think about it, and later on we will see the answer of this question. So thanks for watching. I believe you liked the video, and now what we're going to do in the next couple of video, we're going to apply similar thing using the Spark in the Databricks environment. So stay tuned.